Welcome to Trigger Proof with Mikki Bey, the podcast that helps you stop reacting and start responding. I'm your host, Mikki Bey, emotional regulation coach, speaker, and guide. Each week, we'll explore real stories, practical tools, and conversations that will help you stay calm, confident, and in control, no matter what life throws your way. Let's get started. Welcome to Trigger Proof. I am your host, Mikki Bey. Man, today I have an episode for you. I have my girl, my sister, Megan. She is an absolute phenom in the world of spirituality and identity coaching. And she's also a womb wellness expert. And so she's going to be here talking about all things that have to do with women and getting to the root of the issues that are going on with us. Yes, God Wellness. You may know her as on TikTok as well as Instagram. She has been viral many times. So some of you all may know her from that. Megan, hello, girl.
Hello. Yes, God, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. I have to tell the people how we met. We met on one of her posts that I just could tell her energy and my energy was just going to be a fit. And we just hopped in the DMs. And next thing I know, she was on the road to Atlanta to meet me. And so we have been friends ever since and supporting each other's work. So I'm so happy to have this conversation with you today.
Me too.
Okay, so let me just throw it to you and let you introduce yourself and tell all the people what your specialty is.
Absolutely. So my name is Megan, and I have founded the brand Yes God Wellness, which is a holistic health company, and we are dedicated to the mind, body, spirit connection. And initially, the brand was centered around womb wellness through an ancient practice called yoni steaming, which is the practice of elevating your pelvis and your sacred space over a pot of herbs so that the medicinal properties could be ingested that way. And we had amazing success with women releasing fibroids, releasing chronic BV, helping to regulate cycles, dealing with cycle pain, and dealing with all types of postpartum recovery. And that kind of evolved into coaching. And basically, when I personally began yoni steaming, it helped me to go within myself and recognize that there were a lot of things that I needed to release, not just physically, but also emotionally, a lot of traumas that were there. And so for me, yoni steaming is an emotional practice and a spiritual practice because it allows things to come out that we may not even know that we are still suppressing, that are influencing our behavior and our subconscious expectations. And so just through my personal development and work over the years, my brand has evolved along with that. I've shared the tools that I've used for myself, and people have really resonated with it. So now we have evolved to branch out to not just yoni steaming, but basically all things Eastern, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's Qigong, whether it's various different practices. And identity work has been crucial in that. And really recognizing that I have everything I need within me and that the ego constructs have been restricting me, and letting those go and allowing the divine one with the all that we all have within us to shine through. So I know that's a lot.
Yes, that was a lot, but that was good. And I'm just going to read this disclaimer real quick, y'all. Okay, this is for educational purposes only. This is not medical advice.
Yes.
Speak to your clinician before you start yoni steaming up in here. I don't want you saying Megan and Mikki Bey told y'all to go steam your yoni. Talk to your clinician. Okay. So I just want to get that out there. Now, you mentioned something that really perked my ears up, which is this is emotional steaming. I have had one yoni steam in my life, and it was at like a Korean spa. Nothing emotional happened for me in that moment. And I really didn't know anything about it. It was just included with the things that I got at that particular spa. But can you talk to us about why that emotional release is happening? And for those of us who have not had that experience, like, what is it that you think is bringing about the release of the emotions through the yoni steaming?
That's a great question. So I think the kind of thing that's hidden in plain sight is that you actually sit down. Not a lot of magic there, but it is something that we, especially us as women, sometimes find challenging to really sit down for us. We're so busy filling roles of partner, sister, and friend, and mother, and entrepreneur, and all of these different titles that we are constantly on the go. And so just the act of sitting down with the intention to care for yourself is something that may fly under or over the radar. And so when we actually take a moment to do that, I think why it's it's you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position, right? You're letting the most vulnerable part of your body be opened up and you're allowing access to that, right? And so that is
Yes.
a very vulnerable act, whether no matter what has access to it, right? Whether it's a partner, whether it's a yoni steam, it is the most vulnerable thing physically that we can do. And so
Mm,
I think that kind of triggers something in the nervous system that feels very can for some women maybe feels unsafe because vulnerability may be equated with feeling unsafe. And so once you feel that the warm herbs and the sensation from the herbs, depending on what herbs are being used, there are spiritual properties to herbs and there are physical benefits to herbs. And so there's a culmination of all of those things. I've had many women just break down crying as soon as they sit there for a couple minutes. And it's just, they, I've had clients, I know you told me I was going to cry. I didn't really believe it, but I was crying the whole time. And yeah, I think it's just, exposing yourself in a way that we don't typically do. I think that's what
mm. Wow, that's powerful. Even just thinking about the vulnerability. And you're right. Yeah, you cannot get more vulnerable than having your yoni out. So
exactly. Exactly.
you really cannot. And I can understand between just some of the things that I think about with my own body and how a lot of us are not even in relationship to our own bodies in a
Yes,
way that we are thinking about the emotions that are stored in these body parts. Right.
exactly.
So I'm also loving the tie between your coaching and the yoni steaming because as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I feel like a lot of these places that are offering yoni steaming are probably not even really equipped to handle the emotional aspect that may come with it. Can you
Right.
talk to me a little bit about what you do from a coaching aspect with
Yes.
these women who are experiencing this highly emotional release?
Mhm. Yeah, so one of the things that I always suggest when they are doing a yoni steam is to have not have your phone near you, right? Not have distractions around you so that you can actually sit with the emotions. So many times we are looking to get away from our emotions. We're looking to escape them, distract, numb. And the only way that emotions truly leave us is to be felt. And allowing yourself to sit there and process and have a good cry, you would be surprised at how many women have not cried in years.
Hmm.
And allowing yourself to actually feel those feelings really gives you the opportunity for them to move through. Because what happens when we don't actually ever take time to really feel our feelings, whether they be sadness, whether they be anger, grief, the multitude of emotions, right? What happens is they don't go anywhere, they get bottled up, and then they could potentially turn into physical ailments. And Louise Hayes has a book specifically about different ailments in the body and what they mean energetically. And I always recommend that to my clients as well. But one of the other things that I recommend is to journal while steaming and actually give yourself a place to process those emotions and give yourself a place for those things to come out and land so that you can have an opportunity to really be aware of some things that may be in there that, like I said, you may not have, they may not be at the conscious forefront, but they are sometimes in the background looming and really tainting our perspective and tainting our lens of the world.
How often should you be steaming if you're going to steam?
Yep. So it depends, right? If you're dealing with a womb condition such as fibroids, I have a regimen where I recommend that you're steaming at least 2 to 3 times per week, along with some nutritional changes, some fasting, making sure you're really staying hydrated. Now, if you don't necessarily have any womb ailments, but you, for example, want to experience a better cycle, right? Because that's another kind of side effect of steaming. I recommend steaming at least twice before your cycle starts. So in that luteal phase, twice, just allow yourself to steam. And I have found personally, as well as my clients, that the PMS is a lot better, the cramps are a lot better, there's not as much clotting, and it's just an overall better experience. So for someone who isn't dealing with anything, I would say at least 2 to 3 times a month. For someone who is dealing with something, I would say 2 to 3 times per week.
I love that. Okay. So what about like the sexual benefits of this? Are there any? I figured there had to be some.
Oh,
What are the benefits of stoning, Lord, of steaming the yoni
yes,
for pleasure, to increase
yes,
pleasure?
yes, God.
Yes, God.
So, yoni steaming absolutely helps with pleasure. It naturally enhances circulation down there. So that, of course, when we orgasm, that is our nerve endings having circulation go to a certain part. Now, my ex-husband used to want to give testimonials all the time, and I told him that was inappropriate. However,
What did he want to tell the people? What did he
he
want to tell?
wanted to tell him that you need to get on that pot because it gets some good, you got some good stuff coming off that pot. Yeah. But I see, I'm gonna say I was born with it, but just to say, I've had clients, share that they have experienced amazing results in the bedroom. I've actually had men even come to me and say, "Thank you for introducing this to my girlfriend. Thank you for introducing to my wife." I've had men place orders for their wives. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. I just thought of that question off the top of my head. I didn't even
Mhm.
know if it was going to really have any benefits in that way.
Yeah.
But I assume I was thinking really from the emotional aspect, because one of the things that I talk about, and I will be talking about even more, especially on this platform, is the time between intimacy and emotional regulation. And that most women who are not experiencing orgasms are really just dysregulated. And so we're not actually looking at all of the reasons that you may not be experiencing pleasure. And so I was thinking about this from an emotional aspect, not so much as a physical aspect, but I can see both in
Yes.
how it would aid in yes, the circulation and also
Mhm.
just the releasing, right? And anytime you release something, you can make room for something else, you
Yes.
know? So, talk to
Yeah.
me about your own personal journey of how you came into kind of this wellness life. You are a wellness guru, and I know people come to you for a variety of different things, but what's your journey to wellness?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think similar to many people who find a path that is for them, the initiation is devastation and trauma, right? And so back in 2013, I went to the hospital I was in labor. I went to go deliver my son. And long story short, they didn't want to admit me because I didn't have the right kind of insurance. I was on Medicaid at the time. And they handed me discharge papers and a prescription for Ambien, which I thought was incredibly cruel and insulting, seeing that I was 7 centimeters dilated at the time. And of course, I refused to be discharged. And so I wound up having my son right there in triage, not in a room. Yes, because I'm talking about they adamantly refused to admit me to the actual labor and delivery rooms. And which was very dangerous in retrospect. Now I know, oh my gosh, something could have happened. What if something was wrong? We wouldn't have been in the right place but God is good and everything was fine and healthy. But that broke something in me and it really shed the rose colored glasses for me regarding Western medicine and how they treat people, especially as a Black woman. Our maternal mortality rate is very high for giving birth. And so it made me angry, and I basically decided that I was never gonna allow myself to be put in that position again. And so what that meant for me, how I translated that was that I was going to do, again, all Eastern everything. Next time I have a child, I'm gonna have it natural, I'm gonna do it in the water, I'm gonna do the doula thing, I'm going to so when I was on that path of just researching, because I did get pregnant maybe 6 months after I had my son. Yeah, 6 months after I had my son, I got pregnant again. And so this time it was completely different. I did wind up having her in the water, and as I was searching for all the ways that I could change my life away from a Western philosophy and more towards the way Eastern medicine does things, which is the difference between Western and Eastern is that Western treats symptoms, Eastern treats the whole person, and it looks like the big picture versus kind of zeroing in on this one thing that's happening. And so when I did that was when I came across yoni steaming. And so I ordered my herbs. I had gotten a portable commode while I was still pregnant with my daughter, and I knew that was something that I was going to do after I had her because I read about how beneficial it was for postpartum healing. And so for me, I really went into it looking for the physical benefits. I wasn't even aware of any other benefit until I sat down on that pot and the tears just came. And it was just a very cathartic experience for me. For me, what my experiences was that it allowed me to look within myself and actually start to take accountability for myself and start to look at how I was the common denominator in certain situations and circumstances that I didn't like in my life. And that I needed to change some things about myself. And I'm the type of person when I like something, I share it, I shout it from the rooftops, and I shared it with everyone I knew, my friends, my family, my daughter. I had my daughter start yoni steaming. She was 14 at the time because you can start steaming as soon as you have your cycle. And fast forward a few years, I was in a room with some women and someone just happened to mention, "Hey, I've always wanted to try yoni steaming." And my girlfriend was like, "Oh, Megan does that." And she said, "Oh, Megan, how much would you charge for me to come over and do a yoni steam?" And that literally was how Yes God Wellness was born. It wasn't, "Oh, I'm gonna open this business about yoni steaming." It was, "Mama's gotta pay the rent. I'm flipping furniture on Craigslist. I'm doing this, I'm doing that," because I had been laid off from my job. I wasn't getting hired anywhere else. And God just brought the circumstance in. And that's what I talk about a lot now in my work is really surrendering and allowing
Mhm.
God and just being in your natural element. What feels good for you? What feels exciting for you? What is naturally something that you love to do? And when you surrender to that and stop trying to figure out and plan and strategize, and not to say there's never a time for those things, there's a time for those things and but they also must be very flexible as well. So I was flexible and open to the suggestion and I pretty much went with it and my business grew very quickly. I started out just locally servicing clients and then I grew on Instagram. That was how I was doing my marketing locally in the area. And then I I was request people from all around the world were saying, "How can I yoni steam? What can I do?" And I wanna make this point because I think this is very important. At the time, right, I still was dealing with a little bit of a lack mindset, and so there was a part of me that was scared to show people and to explain how to do it because then I felt, "What will they need me for if I show them how to do it?" And I had to God had to I was meditating at the time, and God was like, "You're starting to try and mind my business again. Oh, your job is to be of service. Your job is not to worry about who, what, where, when, how, and why. Your job is to do what you've been called to do and to do it with excellence."
Yes.
And so I did a tutorial showing people how to steam at home. I had 3 different message, which is still up on YouTube. That video went viral Now it's at 4.6 million views. I think YouTube sent me like 2 grand for that video. Yes. And then with that, I said, I show them how to steam. Maybe I should just create a product line of different herbs so that they can get the herbs from me and then they can just go ahead and steam at home. And that's exactly what I did. I created a product line from scratch. I still hand make all my products. I look to outsource that, but the integrity of outsourcing it is very important to me. So I've kept it in-house for now. So I do that. I do a natural intimate wash. I do a yoni oil. I have several different products available, but that's basically the culmination of how my business came together.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Talk about like just divine inspiration, like for you to start your own journey and then moving into listening to a request from someone else that ended up being this business that it is today. That's absolutely amazing. And I think sometimes we don't realize we're getting guided. And I think that's what's so beautiful about your story is that even though it was birthed in this traumatic moment, look at how many people have been blessed by you just answering the call for yourself first and foremost and healing yourself. But then even from a legacy perspective, you have passed this down in your family. You have helped other women heal some of their womb issues, their emotional issues. So it is literally paying it forward every time you sell a product or every time a woman uses any of your products. That's absolutely incredible. You mentioned that you were meditating inside of the story, right? And so you heard from God in your meditation. I want you to talk to us about what your routine is for yourself to stay grounded. And what if I don't have all this knowledge that Megan has and I want to get started on some type of a spiritual journey for myself to feel better? What would you tell that person?
Absolutely. I would tell that person about a practice that I got from a book called The Artist's Way, and it's called Morning Pages. And what it is when you first wake up in the morning, it's basically a brain dump. It's a stream of consciousness writing. It doesn't have to be a particular subject. It could be, I woke up and I'm in a bad mood, blah, 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 blah. And you just let yourself, whatever is in your mind, the argument that I had last week is still upsetting me because blah, blah, like literally whatever is in your mind, go ahead and let it out on the paper. And once you do that, move into gratitude, move into looking around to the things in your life that are going right, because it is human nature to zone and focus in on what's going wrong. And I think that so many people get caught up in what's going wrong. They make it the topic of their conversation, they make it the topic of their inner dialogue. It's constantly being pushed to the forefront. And meanwhile, we are completely taking for granted all of the things that are going right. And yeah, and then one of the so I would that's what I would say to a new person, to just really focus on what's going right and focus on giving yourself permission to write things down so that you
Mhm.
can have a place to process what's going on in your mind, because that monkey mind will try to distract your attention and make it seem like it's the most important thing going, and really it's not. What really is important is what your intuition, what your gut is telling you, because your nervous system is always speaking to you. And our thoughts are there to keep us safe, and success looks like a risk to the nervous system.
Mhm.
So it takes practice to continue to move forward and do things that are outside of your comfort zone, and to do things that may scare you. But that is where the surrender comes in and the trust comes in, to trust that God is leading you. If I feel like I'm excited about it, if I feel like it's something that I want to do, yes, I may be scared of what people think. Yes, I may be scared because it's something new. Yes, I may be whatever, but just surrender and trust that your divine path is always going to be tied to something that you enjoy.
Yes, God.
Yes, God.
Yes, God. Okay. So, what does your routine look like? Like when you wake up in the morning, what are you doing? And I ask this question specifically because as a coach, I think one of the things that I'm so adamant about, because I have to pour into people, and even if I wasn't a coach, I was doing this long before I was coaching, but I have always felt like I need to set myself up for the day that I plan to have. And I put myself to sleep. And I have a particular way that I wake myself up and a particular way that I put myself to sleep. And I realized we work in this spiritual field, and we're in it all day long. But I'm interested to know what would be like the floor and the ceiling of your routine. You only have 5 minutes, and if you have 5 hours, what do you do?
Mhm. Yeah, so if I only had 5 minutes, I'll tell you what I don't do first thing in the morning. I do not touch my phone. I do not allow any communication from the outside world to impress on my consciousness first thing in the morning.
Mm.
That is time for me to remind myself of who I am and whose I am. And so typically there is some movement involved, there is some writing involved, and there is some prayer/meditation involved.
Mhm.
And for me, I like to get up and do some kind of Tai Chi movements to get my body activated and brain awake. Let me backtrack. Before I get out of bed, I lay there and I just say thank you. I just do my gratitude in my mind. Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for this bed that has supported me all night. Thank you for these clean sheets. Thank you for the bathroom that's within walking distance. Thank you for my legs and feet that work that can get me to that bathroom. Like really just pouring into just that vibration of gratitude immediately. And once I do that, I get up, I do some movement, I do my writing, and then I get a workout and a proper workout, and then I do my meditation after that. So that's the flow of what my mornings look like.
One of the questions that I've been asking on this podcast as of lately, which might end up being a question I always ask, because I think it's really important. What does dysregulation look like for you these days? Because we do, I've been very vocal. This has been a season for me that has been like no other. I'm talking ego deaths. I have been through it in the past 90 days. And I'm very vocal about that because I want people to know that dysregulation is a part of regulation. You're never going to get to a place where you are not ever dysregulated. So I want to ask this question so that people don't look at you or me and say, oh, I should be able to be regulated forevermore, because baby, I am not regulated forevermore. I work on this
Exactly.
day in and day out. And I always say I start over every single day with my
You
regulation.
have to.
Literally started from ground zero. So yesterday might have been a wonderfully regulated day, and I might have been able to put myself back to neutral relatively easily whenever I was triggered. But today is a whole different day. And so
Exactly.
I have to manage my regulation in this right now moment. So I'm wondering for you, what does dysregulation look like for you these days?
Yeah, dysregulation looks like and feels like anxiety to me. It feels like I am racing some invisible clock. It also feels like when I am in proximity to people whom I cannot express my needs to and have those needs be acknowledged and honored. And so that has been what my season recently has been about, is recognizing who my nervous system doesn't feel safe around and having the courage to let go of those connections, which can be very hard, especially if you have been connected to them for a very long time, or if it's a family member. And sometimes it's not necessarily letting it go completely, but it is limiting the access and exposure to that connection. So I would say dysregulation to me looks like my logical mind trying to lead my life versus my intuition and my gut. That's what I
Yes.
would say.
Yeah.
Asking too much who, what, where, when, and why. That's when I know I'm dysregulated.
You have all the questions,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
questions lead to more questions.
Exactly.
It's not really going to get you a solution when you're in that rumination loop.
Mhm.
I love that. So let's talk about your identity coaching.
Yes, God.
Yes, God, who is an ideal client for identity coaching?
Yeah. An ideal client, I typically work with high achieving women. I work with entrepreneurs, I work with doctors, lawyers, nurses, women who have put a lot of effort and energy into becoming successful. And ha for some reason, they still feel unfulfilled with that
Mhm.
success. That is my ideal client because is she is she's me, right? We relate to one another because we do have a strong work ethic, and the patriarchy has taught us that's all you need is a strong work ethic and you're gonna be successful. However, success in those terms doesn't equate to actual internal peace and fulfillment.
Correct.
And so what my passion is helping women marry their physical external success with their internal peace and fulfillment.
I love
And
it.
yeah, the way to do that is to remember what your true identity is because it's not in your label of doctor, lawyer, nurse, mother, wife, friend, girlfriend, fiance, whatever. It
Mhm.
is in how do you feel about yourself? How do you describe yourself to yourself? And so, that is what your true identity is. And so, what I like to do is remind people that they are already perfect, whole, complete, and enough as they are, with or
Yeah.
without the degree, with or without the money, with or without the husband, with or without anything.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I coach in the same vein, right? We have the same target client, and I coach these women because also I am this woman, right? And I'd done all of that. I'd gotten all the degrees. I
Yep.
got married. I did everything right,
Mm,
in quotes, right?
yep.
And then got to the mountaintop and was like, oh, this was a setup.
Exactly.
Because I don't feel any better. In fact, I feel worse.
Exactly.
And I was sold a dream that if I did all of these things, that I was going to have this feeling that I do not have. So there must be something wrong with me
Right. Exactly.
because everybody else got to be having this experience. It's
Mhm.
me that is not
Mhm.
having this experience. And so once I realized, for me, it had to come with a healthy dose of hitting a brick wall.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
in my own life, I had to hit because I'm the kind of person I wish that I wasn't, but I'm the kind of person where I don't believe fat meat is greasy unless I taste it. And so it would not have mattered. Like nobody was going to be able to tell me I didn't need to be married.
Mhm.
Nobody was going to
Mhm.
be able to tell me that.
Yep.
I had to experience that for myself. And I was very pained by that early in my 20s and 30s by not being married. And that was an essential part of what I thought needed to be a part of my identity. Now,
Mhm.
on the other side of having been married, and I was married for almost a decade, I can honestly say that it's not that marriage wasn't great or good, but I never needed it to be the person that I am because I just
Exactly.
am this person.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
I think when I look back at that time in my life where I really yearned from lack and not believing I was whole and complete and not believing that there was a possibility that I could have an amazing life without having a partner and not having the wherewithal at that time to know that was something I could solve for myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when I look back at that time in my life, I wish that I would not have spent one day lamenting about what I didn't have or what I thought I didn't have. And it has nothing to do with the actual man that I ended up being with. It has everything to do with the person I know I was always going to become and I was
Yes.
always going to be, regardless of if
Yeah.
that would have happened for me. I'm in total agreement with you that identity work is the number one thing that we need to do. And even as a
Yeah.
part of my program, that's step one for us. And really understanding, I like what you said about understanding who you are and whose you are. If you can get that down, that'll take you the whole way.
Exactly.
That'll take you the
Exactly.
whole way.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I love that. And when you say that the wellness part of your business has this emotional component and then you're dealing with identity work, like how do you marry all of this together? Because it's if I'm just now meeting you right now, I'm like, okay, she got identity coach, she doing Yoni Stevens, she got products. Like, how do you marry that for your clients or for people who are encountering you?
Yes. So I am actually almost done with my Yoni, excuse me, it's not Yoni. It's an identity and womb reset program. And we are incorporating identity work along with yoni steaming as part of the identity work. So I'm really excited to be launching that. We also do have a Yes God Body community where we come together biweekly. It's essentially a group coaching program. And we do the same thing. We do our identity work. It's optional to Yoni Steam. I know that not everyone who wants to do identity coaching is necessarily open to the womb part, but I do think it's a beautiful supplement to identity work because it allows you to just remember what your true identity is. And um, yeah, I've throughout the years, I've tried to figure out, okay, am I going to do this or I'm going to do that? I'm going to do, and it's, I'm a multifaceted person. Many people are multifaceted and they, people say you should have one thing and one clear offer. And that's just not what my business model is. I don't, I have a very loyal client base of womb wellness clients who swear by my products. They order over and over again. And I have always been a person to allow the market to tell me what they need versus me trying to tell them what they need. And I just am basically here with these options. And then whatever someone needs, I am willing to step in and provide that for them if it's something that I offer.
Yes,
Yeah.
love it. Yes, God.
Yes,
So
God.
before we wrap up, because we've used this word a couple times during this conversation, I want to have a conversation about surrender because it is absolutely one of my favorite words and one of my favorite ways of being. But I think surrender is very misunderstood. So I want to have an open conversation about what your definition of surrender is. And also, not just what is surrender, but how do I surrender?
Okay. So the way that I explain surrender to my clients is like this. We have the logic mind, right? We have the brain, and then we have the heart that feels and intuits. And the heart is like the CEO, right? The brain is like the manager of the company. So, unfortunately, most people are allowing the manager to try to manage the vision, right? And tell the heart, tell the CEO, no, that feeling doesn't matter. No, that intuition doesn't matter. It's supposed to be like this. It's got to be like this. It's got to. Because the brain has a very stringent way of doing things and it's based on past experiences, right? And but we all know that if you want something different, you have to do something different. And so it can be very uncomfortable for people to start to listen to the heart when the manager is barking orders at them, telling them, "Oh, you can't do that. What will people think? What is this? Like, we always do it like that. Yeah, I know you got a feeling about it, but I don't care about that feeling. This is how it needs to go." So the act of surrender, and this is why meditation is so important and sitting still slash yoni steaming is so important because you are practicing the muscle of not allowing your mind to tell you that you got to go do the laundry, you got to go do this, you should be responding to this email, you got to answer that text. And just sitting still, you're training your body to not not allow the manager to lead, but to allow the heart to lead. And so what happens, like any exercise with repetition, you get stronger and stronger at it. So surrendering is the act of disciplining your body to not follow behind what the mind is trying to jump and tell you you got to go and do. And for me, surrendering has meant not, again, not needing to know the who, what, where, when, and whys all the time and to just trust. Hey, you know what? I really don't feel I know I committed to going to this thing with such and such tomorrow, but I really don't feel like it, so I'm gonna cancel. That is an example of surrendering to what it feels good to you. So it's what feels good versus what sounds good. That's the definition of surrender to me, and surrendering to what feels good, not what logically sounds good.
Our people pleasers gonna have a time with that one, baby. Okay. Our
And
people
coming from a
pleaser.
former people
I-
pleaser right here. Yeah.
yes, I was like, I know they itching hearing that
Uh-huh.
because it really becomes an issue of, are you willing to self-abandon?
Exactly.
And when you become the type of person who makes that, it's not an option anymore for me to acquiesce to what sounds good or what other people want me to do. But if it goes against what I'm feeling, then the answer is just no. I've
That's
gotten
it.
so much better with that over the years, but I won't try to make it seem like it's 100% all of the time,
Right.
because of course there are pressures in our lives, and sometimes we want to acquiesce, and sometimes we want to
Yeah.
be the person that is able to fulfill whatever for whatever else. But ultimately, whenever I have chosen to self abandon, it never works out.
Exactly.
Right. And so I love your definition of surrender. And the thing that I would tack on to surrender is that to truly surrender means you have let go of the outcome,
Yeah.
and to be okay with knowing that whatever happens is for me. Not
Mhm.
that whatever happens, I want it, but
Mhm.
whatever happens is for me. And so one of the ways in which I live my life is I go straight to affirmation when I am feeling the fear rise up in my body. And sometimes that affirmation may look like, I just trust whatever is
Mhm.
happening for me in
Mhm.
this moment. Everything is working out for me.
Yes.
Some days, 2 days ago, I sat down and for about 15 minutes, I just wrote everything I knew to be true. And I just
Mhm.
said, life permits me, I permit life.
Mhm.
Life will not leave me out. I just wrote down everything that I could think about because I was working my way out of being fearful of letting go. And so, what I want to say to people about surrender is that you're also building the muscle of trust between you and you,
Yep.
right? Between you and your source, and allowing that source energy to carry you through to the next step, and know that you will be carried to the next step. And so one of the ways that I do this in my coaching is I call it running into the burning building. If you tell me you have a fear, I'm gonna be like, well, let's walk that thing all the way out.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go to the deep end of the pool and you tell me what your brain tells you is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And let's just look at that and let's feel it, and let's dispel the fear by putting the light on it. And
Mhm.
then you can get to a place where you're like, I'm good with whatever happens because my safety and security is created on the inside of me. It is not
Mhm.
created because of my job. It is not created because of a man. It's not created because of my clients. It's not created because of anything other than I know how to manufacture safety and security on the inside of me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask you for something in just a second. But before I do that, I would like for you to tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, God. So you can find me pretty much everywhere under Yes, God Wellness. I have a Facebook page, I have an Instagram, I have TikTok, I have YouTube. I have my Spotify channel is blowing up right now because I have been doing affirmative prayers and self-concept rampages that people have requested to be able to hear on repeat. The only thing is that on Spotify, my podcast are the Yes God Cast. That's the name of my podcast. So that's the only thing that isn't Yes God Wellness. But if you type in Yes God, I should
You can
come
come
up.
up.
I should come up in the results.
Yes, God. So I'm
Yes,
so glad you mentioned your affirmation rampages. I would love and be so honored if you could just take us out with one of your rampages. And when you're done, we're done.
absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
God. God, we are so thankful that everyone that hears this message today will have something released in them, God, that they will have a divine revelation, God, that they will have a divine knowing to be able to recognize that inner voice within them that is guiding them towards the purpose that you have for their life, God. We are thanking you right now in advance for the transformations that will happen, God, through this podcast. We are thanking you in advance for the opportunities that will come through this podcast. We are thanking you in advance for the miracles and the blessings that are happening through this podcast, God. We are blessing everyone who hears this and everyone in their lives, God, through the access to this podcast, God. We are so thankful for all of the wonderful, amazing gifts that you have given to us. And we are so thankful that we are able to see those gifts with new eyes and new gratitude and new appreciation, God. And we are so grateful that we have the divine gift of imagination, God. And we are grateful that we can use that imagination to experience all of the desires of our hearts, God. Because if I define a red apple right now, we can see that red apple in our mind's eye, God. And you told us in your word, God, that he who hath will be given more, but he who does not have, even what he has will be taken from us. So, God, we pray that you will continue to allow us to see all of the things that we have and all of the things that we will have through using the power of our imagination, God. We thank you so much, and we are so grateful. We are so blessed. Yes, God.
Yes, God.
God.
Thank you, Fred.
Yes,
Oh my
God.
gosh. Thanks for joining me on Trigger Proof with Mikki Bey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're really ready to dive deeper, download my free emotional regulation bundle. It includes my ebook, workbook, and a masterclass to help you start regulating with confidence. Find the link in the show notes. And until next time, stay steady, stay grounded, and stay trigger proof.